weird. Yes, you did. Made it weird. What's happening, weirdos? This is my incredible conversation with the incredible Steve O, who has a new special out now called The Bucket List. You can find out how to watch it on steveo.com. You can also come see me. I'm doing some stand-up coming up, Tempe, Arizona for New Year's. And then I will be at the Brea Improv in California. And we did find new dates for Chicago. Apologies again for rescheduling that, guys. That was a hard one for me. But all of those tickets are available on peteholmes.com. Also, my special is on Netflix right now. Please watch that if you haven't already. It's called I Am Not For Everyone, and that is streaming on Netflix right now. What else? I guess we could talk about the Pete's Picks. Pete's Picks, as you guys know, I only do ads for things that I actually use and actually love. And obviously, Modern Mammals is a huge one for me. I never used to wash my hair. I hated washing my hair because shampoo sucks. Shampoo sucks. So there's a real problem with shampoo. You wash your hair, I guess it's clean, but it looks like a bale of hay that you just took out of the dryer. It's crisp, it's fried, it's fluffy, it looks like crap, so you end up putting more crap in your hair just to make it look natural again. It was a disaster. So for years, I just wasn't washing my hair, and then I found Modern Mammals. Modern Mammals, in a nutshell, is shampoo, basically, that cleans your hair, so it's clean. Comb goes right through it. It's amazing, but it doesn't dry it out. It looks like it looked before you washed it, in the sense that it's still natural, still maintains some of that oil, some of that, I don't know how to describe it. It basically looks like you have a little product in it after you washed it and you're ready to go. I mean, I've been on red carpets and I washed my hair with Modern Mammals that morning. I never used to do that. But of course you have to clean your hair, so this is a huge problem. And this is the solution, Modern Mammals. Game changer. It's got 40,000 guides have switched to it instead of traditional shampoo. The reviews are mind-blowing. Once you use it, you will be hooked for life. I am hooked for life. You can't go back. Get a guy in your life, Modern Mammals, maybe this holiday season. It's a wonderful gift. They might not even know they need it, but you know they need it. It's a small grassroots punk rock company. I love these guys, and they're saving our hair, making this new shampoo alternative specifically for men. They have bars for no plastic and no fragrance or bottles. It's like a magic gray mud, and I love the feeling of it. I love the smell of it, and I love that it gets you hair perfect every single time in 6 seconds. Go to modernmammals.com/weird, where people can get a special combo deal and try both the bottle and the bar for both for $44. You get both, and support the show. modernmammals.com/weird. We are also brought to us by our friends at Open. You guys know I struggle with sleep. I struggle with anxiety. I have a brain that's very active. It's very hard to turn it off. It's hard to calm down and settle my mind. I got a lot going on up there. Well, thankfully, I found a new solution that's been working wonders for me, the Open app, which takes you through thoughtful and intentionally designed classes for clarity. You can hear Leela in the background. Anxiety, focus, energy, and sleep. The difference between before and after for me, like before the calming breathwork class, is night and day. I'm a huge fan of breathwork, but it's not always easy to do. You need help, I need guidance, and I want to make sure I'm doing it right, and the Open app takes care of all that. I actually like to do it before I go on stage to feel a little more centered and clear and get rid of that anxiety and those jitters, so I'm calm and present while I'm performing. And I do it before bed. The PM body scan has me out like a light. If that's all it did, it would be incredible. It took me years to find a better way, and now I'm passing it on to you, and you only need 5 minutes a day. The Open method is simple and it works. It combines breathwork, meditation, and fitness. They have a badass community of people doing it all together, all committed to personal growth to help support you. My only regret is not starting it sooner. The app changed my life. It will change yours. If you want to get on my daily routine, you can get 30 days free of Open by visiting withopen.com/weird. Again, that is 30 days free by visiting withopen.com/weird. Support your body, support your mind, support your life, support the show. All right, everybody, enjoy Steve O. Get into it. Could you use your real voice, not this persona? Can the real Steve show up? What if you just were like, afternoon?
I was trying to work with the vocal coach at one point.
Buddy, brutal, right? No, we have the same thing. I went to a Cedars? Is it a Cedars person?
No, it's somebody was referred to me by.
Who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
No, not that I don't care, but I don't want you to strain to try to remember.
Oh, no, yeah, I don't mind.
I just know it's sort of embarrassing. This, you massage, and you have to stretch your tongue and before shows and all that.
Right.
It really worked. Did you see the Metallica documentary?
The Some Kind of Monster?
Yeah. What if you were like, no?
A long time ago.
Well, what made me feel better about it was James Hetfield is in the stairwell, the most metal person of all time, and he's going me, and I'm like, there's no cool way to do it. Right. You just have to go, it's okay. So we're recording.
There we go. Thank you. Right on. It's great to be here.
I'm really happy to. Yeah. We've walked past one another many times.
I not long ago had a set at the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
Walked in. You were on stage, and it was just thunderous.
No.
Thunderous. Like I mean, there's just something about the Comedy Store, man.
It's special, isn't it?
It's unbelievable, and the energy in there. I just thought, man, I'm swimming with sharks tonight.
That's part of it, though. You know what I mean? It's like, to me, following great people. I still feel it too. You know, obviously, I'm like,
for sure.
I just followed Santino there. I saw you there.
Yeah.
I think on Monday.
No.
Before the holiday.
No.
It doesn't matter.
No, not in the last week or so. But yeah, it absolutely. I remember. Who else was there? Just Eliza was there. Yeah. She did great.
Yeah, she murders.
I just remember thinking, God, I've just gotta step it up tonight.
Isn't that funny that because one of the things I sincerely admire about you. I'm a spiritual person, and I'm always talking about there's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing. We're innocent. Like, it's okay. Right. All this self-acceptance.
I'm excited to talk about spiritual concepts with you.
That's great. Well, one of the things, and this might sound false, but I sincerely mean it, is I just took a pee, right? And I was like, isn't it funny that Steve can pee in front of people? And I don't like it. I'd rather not pee at a ball game. You know what I mean?
Right.
And what is going on there is a latent shame, like a denial of my human, and you don't have that. I know that sounds funny, but
you know, I do. I just have it in different ways.
Tell me.
With my stand-up, even though I've been doing it, I've been doing it belligerently and persistently and aggressively. I've just not stopped for 13 years. Wow. Just you know, I've maintained a schedule of touring that's unhealthy. Yeah. You know, I do so many shows.
A little on brand.
And yet somehow, because I came into stand-up from something else, I've got this built-in insecurity that people don't want to accept me.
Oh, no, that's real. That's real.
Yeah. And so
it doesn't matter if you come in, Ricky Gervais creates the funniest TV show of all time, does stand-up. I have to imagine he was also do you accept me? Because you came late, which is so silly. But I get it. Because it can be like a clubhouse, and it's these are the real pirates.
Right.
And you're a guy wearing a hat that you got at Pirates of the Caribbean, being like, arr.
Yeah, absolutely. And over the course of the 13 years of me doing stand-up,
which, by the way, you're minted. Past 10, you're mint, by anyone's standard. You know what I mean? Because stand-ups are worried that you're a tourist.
Right.
You know, 13 years. That's longer than.
Yeah, I mean, the reality, if my logical thinking applies, it's very democratic. If people don't want you to be doing it, then there isn't an audience, and it's gonna not continue.
Right.
But for me, I was able to keep making it around to the comedy club circuit year after year, and business got better and better. And
it's like getting your passport stamped.
Right.
It's look, I was there.
Right.
Yeah.
And over the course of the time, my comedy became multimedia.
Yeah.
Where in the beginning it was just me and a microphone, then it was me and a microphone, and I would edit footage in after the fact so that my second special could be multimedia.
But not for the audience.
Correct.
For the viewing audience.
Yeah. So I didn't have it to lean on when I was touring. The show on tour was just stand up in its own right. But then I added footage in after the fact.
Yeah.
And that worked so well that I really wanted to bring footage with me on tour for my third hour.
Let them enjoy it.
Yeah. And God, it worked so well. That's the special I've just put out.
Yeah, I was just watching it this morning.
Oh, man.
It's a crazy way to start your day. For me, it's like 9 a.m. I just dropped my daughter off and I'm like, oh, but that's it. There's like I call it the Borat factor, like watching it in a theater.
Yeah.
I cry for people that watch Jackass movies or Borat without a crowd. It's so fun. That is the show, in fact. The show is obviously the show, but there's a second show is watching all sorts of people react in different ways.
And so early on, not that early on, but certainly, a year or more before I taped this special, I sent a reference cut, a recording of the show with all the multimedia baked in to my buddy Johnny Knoxville.
Yeah.
And he said, "Hey man, this is great," but he said, if you could make your delivery more conversational.
Oh wow.
That would help. And
that's a hard thing. That's a hard note to give too. It's a hard note to get.
But
it's good to have a friend that could be like,
couldn't agree more.
I'm trying to help.
Yeah.
But most people will just go, yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Avoid it.
Oh no, Knoxville's always been very thoughtful, very candid.
That's like me and Mike Birbiglia will be like, I don't like this joke. And you're like, what? Oh God. Like I'm so, what's the Hollywood cliche? Your managers are all like, it's the best, Steve. It's the best.
The yes people.
Because that's self-preservational. They want you to release it. They want it to make money and all. They don't really care, or as much as a friend, a real friend.
For sure. And he's always been that way, Knoxville. And so I continued touring with the show, and I was trying so hard to just be more natural and loose and conversational, and I just couldn't feel it working. And ultimately, what I did was I hired a speaking coach, not a vocal coach, but a speaking coach.
Obviously.
Because
you still have the rasp, right?
Yeah.
That was the joke. You wanted someone to help you speak more naturally, not sound.
Right.
Yeah.
So with the speaking coach got the recording of the show and watched it, and the speaking coach said to me, "Why do you have no problem in the vignettes, the multimedia component?
Yeah,
you're very loose, very natural,
Yeah.
Yet on stage, you have this kind of
fear is at play,
stiffness. Or
something. Yeah.
And what we arrived at is that when I'm in the doing my thing in the vignettes, like I'm not. It's just so natural for me.
Well, you're also in control. Your fiance is shooting. You decide, like, let's roll now, right? I have to imagine you're like, I feel like it. Let's do it. We can edit it. It's different they see everything on stage.
Yeah.
Am I right?
I think what it is that is that just insecurity that when I'm on stage, it's like, oh, I feel that there's some self-consciousness, like, oh, now I'm performing stand-up and people don't want to accept me as that, and I think that we really chipped away at it, really broke, and I just developed this mantra of going out on stage and being like, dude, I'm just the guy in the clips. I'm not out here trying to impersonate what I think a stand-up comedian is.
Right.
No, I'm going out there like if it's a TED Talk, and I'm speaking as the world's foremost expert in poo-poo jokes and stuff.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah, poo-poo jokes.
Yeah, scatological humor. I'm the best in the world. Like I'm.
Well, you're also a pioneer of this other thing, but that can carry over into this. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
But that's what's interesting to me watching, obviously listening to your podcast and seeing you evolve. I feel like you've thought about this, but you kind of just alluded to it. When I see you doing stand-up, I see somebody who had to get over the idea that you're not valuable if you're not backflipping into a vat of acid. Right? Like, why would you watch me? And was that young Steve-O's hang up? It's like, I'll do anything. And you started at 10, and now you're telling us an anecdote about an Uber that you took once. It's like, you probably have to like green light that your feelings and your private thoughts are as valuable as an extreme stunt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like it gave me anxiety. You describing like
It freaked me out too.
I can't talk about Uber. Not okay.
But
funny.
That like, you will see me. Is that the voice of young Steve-O? You will see me? Or is it more, I will shock you? Is it about them or is it about you?
I think that I've just left the bar. You know, where the bar lives is a terrifying height. And to come in underneath the bar, that's something that has less to do with an audience or an audience's expectations than I think a standard that I hold myself to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know.
Where'd that standard come from? Starting at the beginning and working up to the stand-up. And not to be too therapy, but I'm genuinely interested.
Sure.
Like, I'll start with this. I got into stand-up because I really felt like my parents were lost in their own worlds. You know what I mean? Like the dinner table, I was like, Right. And so when I was away from my family and found a way for people to like see me, and laughter is this great proof that you've been heard. Not only were you heard, you were understood.
Wow, I like that.
And they got your perspective. So when I like complain about my parents and I'm like, and then he says, and they laugh, I'm like, thank you, right? That was crazy or whatever.
Right.
So that was the need. If you were you started by submitting your tapes to the guy who would go on to direct Jackass.
Right.
Do you remember, I mean, there's so many ways to come at it. Were you like, the world is absurd. Why are we all acting like it's normal? We're all in danger. Why are we acting like we're safe? Like, what was the voice?
I have a theory on this, and it's that mortality is such a problem for all of us. The way that I view it, our human experience is a cruel prank on us because we have only one instinct, which is to survive.
Yeah.
And one guarantee, we won't.
That's the cosmic joke.
So
we're ice sculptures. We're melting ice sculptures.
I like that.
And some of the ice sculptures are like, I have $1 billion. And it's like, who cares, dipshit? Or some of them are like, in the 70s, I had a hit record. Who cares, dipshit? Like, I'm reading The Denial of Death right now, and it's all about the like everything we do is driven by this like unspoken, so repressed, unconscious. War is some dictator being like, the more bodies that fall, the more I am, and the more I'm served, and look how real I am. And then history laughs. It's like, Napoleon? What are you You're gone. You're gone just like the postman.
For sure.
Is gone. Like, so it's this equalizer. So you're saying there was a sort of like, let's look at this.
Well, yeah. And when I was, failing out of the University of Miami in 1993, I was very acutely aware of my inability to make it to class, to get passing grades. There was no chance that I was going to graduate from university.
Yeah.
I could not do it. And every single attempt that I had ever made to hold a job was equally catastrophic.
Right. So you're not like fitting in. It's a lonely feeling.
I could not keep a job. Like no matter, like I could not bring myself to do anything that I was not passionate about doing.
And it wasn't a choice. You weren't being punk rock. You literally weren't built that way.
Literally was. I couldn't. And so in my view, I like woefully lacked the basic survival skills needed to navigate the world we live in.
Right.
And I expected that it was my fate that I was going to fail miserably at life and die young and having failed pathetically.
Right.
And so there was like an extra just frustration, despair, like I'm just not cut out. And I think that it's not a mystery why my first stunts were just so by design to mock, lash out at. Like there was very angsty.
Yeah.
Like I was hanging off like a 12-story balcony by my bare hands.
Yeah.
And you know, I'd let go, dropping onto the 11th floor below, and I did it like very drunk.
Oh,
and, you know,
my God.
It was like I could die, you know. It was like me lashing out at death.
Yeah.
And there was something about the fact of videotaping it, which absolutely cheats death. Like I was like, I'm gonna be dead.
Yeah.
I'll have like having failed, dead, gone. But these videos that I'm making,
even if I die, they will
outlive me.
Yeah.
And so my early stunts, in some ways, I really feel that it was me scrambling around frantically trying to pack my message into a bottle so that I could be discovered posthumously.
Yeah.
As the Van Gogh dipshit of the video camera.
It reminds me, there's a lot of, I don't know, can you say primal? Like tribes in South America, which I know you lived in South America. But like I'm thinking about like the Yanomami and all these different Indians and whatever. I don't know why we call them Indians. Anyway, I'm really having a hard time talking about this without being offensive. I'm just saying it goes really far back that like a shaman would gouge his back with hooks and hang there in the village. So there's the baskets, here's the food for tonight. Oh, there's the shaman, he's bleeding out. They would call it death tripping. They would literally take themselves as close as they could to death to then have a psychedelic experience, like a vision, and come back. Or standing on poles, like with one foot.
Yep.
There's all this sort of stuff. So it is new. You are a pioneer, but it also seems to be part of
absolutely
the human.
not new. I don't think
You took it to a
much
different
new.
place.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of new stuff available.
But isn't that weird? But you were in the MTV days being like, what is this? And it's like, well, there's actually a historical precedent for this. You're right. The one special thing we all have is our relationship to our own mortality. And you wanted to turn that into an identity.
Right.
And you did.
I think that people are very, very averse to even contemplating their mortality.
Of course.
I think that is a grave mistake.
You see a corpse, they put makeup on it, they cut your belly off. Like if you had a huge belly, you're flat, you look great. It's fucking perverse. And I say this all the time, but like Ram Dass used to talk about how in India, when someone died, they would carry them on a board through the street. Just a dead body, not adorned, not fixed up, just here's death.
Right.
And that would help everyone kind of understand and remember it. And here we hide birth. The birth process is like, it's a little bit like factory farming, which I know is something else you feel about. It's like, it's over here. Let's not look at that. And our deaths it's over here. And we won't let you see it until it's pretty. And then it's just like the tiniest little bite.
I don't think that we even want to see it if it's pretty. Like I
agree.
I think that that even being old is not. It's not acceptable. It's like to be elderly. Is an offense.
Because we don't have elders. We just have old, useless people. I'm not saying that's true.
Right.
We're just like, well, they can't produce. They can't consume. What are they?
It's not even that. It's that elderly people serve as a reminder of our mortality, and we don't care to be reminded of our mortality, so we are offended by old people and want them out of our line of sight.
Because, and it's weakness too. It's mortality and it's cousin weakness. It's like I'm watching my parents get older, and I'm also watching people in their circle not be able to spend time with them because it's hard when somebody is shaking as they're drinking their tea and has to ride a little chair up the stairs. But like, I'm grateful, again, Ram Dass twice in 10 minutes, but he's like, in our culture, it's like we go out and the leaves are changing to red, they're dying, and we go out with green paint and we paint them, and we go, they're still green, they're still green. This is what Botox is. I feel horrible for the burden on everybody, but women in particular, that you're like, you can't age. Remember the new Top Gun? They didn't have the same woman.
Yeah, I didn't know.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. And then I looked up a picture of that woman and she like aged appropriately.
Yeah.
And I'm not dragging Tom Cruise, but I'm like, it's sort of fucking weird that the hero of our country is 60 something and looks 30 something. And we're all just sort of like, yeah, death won't come. Like, what are we going to do when Tom Cruise dies? What are we going to do as a nation?
It's so funny. A friend of mine said, man, if it wasn't for Scientology, Tom Cruise would be the coolest guy who ever lived.
You know, it's funny.
Like, can you imagine?
If he wasn't?
Can you imagine if it wasn't? And a very solemn.
just staring out the window.
God, like,
he was so close. He was so close. Well, he does. What does he do? Death-defying stunts as well.
Yeah.
And he makes a point to be like, that's really me. So not only am I old and I'm defying that, but I'm also tempting death. How many times did he jump off that mountain on the bike? It's the same service. And I have this joke, it doesn't really work, but I go, you ever catch yourself watching TV and you're like, I can't die, I'm Captain America. Like you project yourself onto these heroes or Tom Cruise. You go, as with Tom, so with me. As you're eating a hoagie, you know what I mean? And like, it doesn't matter because you can imagine, that's the service they provide, is you will also look great. You will also cheat death forever.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the thing, you know, like to take it to the spiritual, that this whole like idea of death and I mean, it's an illusion, right? I mean, do we not have enough evidence now that like with all the people's accounts of near-death experiences where they experience their life review.
Yeah.
And I mean, are we not like at a place where we can actually understand that we're not the body? And
that there's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah.
But that's, again, that goes back to you. And I know I don't want to be too absurd by saying sometimes it's just a good old kick in the nuts.
Sure.
You know, sometimes a cigar is
Easy.
just a cigar, and it's just funny and it's great. But this is the podcast where we go a little bit deeper and go, there are these aesthetics in India that throw their shit at people and they eat.
The Agoris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're trying, I think, I don't have a full understanding, but they're trying to say, like, don't you see this isn't real? Don't you see this isn't, like, your idea of being a good boy and God will love me is so absurd. And I know God's love is so encompassing that I'm going to do everything weird to freak you out because that's how sure I am that we're okay.
Yeah, we filmed with the Agoris.
Really?
Yeah, a couple times. And
More than once?
Well, once was for my show Wild Boys, which was sort of a homoerotic comedy nature show, and it was just me and one other guy, Chris Pontius, and we had a really pretty fantastic experience with the Agoris. They were just wild. Then we went to India again to film the second Jackass movie, and we filmed with the Agoris with the whole cast, and we found that the whole cast of Jackass was not as tolerant as just me and Pontius were. They just wasn't
they were agoraphobic?
They were doing their gory thing, and it didn't fly with all the guys.
What were they doing?
just kind of acting a fool. Like I don't remember anything in particular, but I think there was like some leg humping kind of a thing. It's like, don't hump my leg, dude. You know, like the tolerance for jackass wasn't there. Yeah,
they had met their match. Would you say?
Yeah, but I just. My experience wasn't that they were quite as thoughtful as you're suggesting.
I hear what you're saying. I even as I was saying that, I was like, I don't know if it's that intellectual.
Yeah, they were quite. I don't know.
They were wild.
Yeah, they were just trying to get a rise. Was our deal, or my impression.
Yeah,
drinking whiskey out of human skulls and And interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting guys.
I think it does tie to what we're talking about, but who knows?
On some level, yeah. But I think that they've kind of that they're just not coming from a place of God is accepting. You know, right. They're more just like, look at me. You know, like.
Yeah.
Which I can relate to so much. It's interesting too that death is not such a taboo subject, and elders are appreciated in the
in India.
Eastern Hemisphere.
Yeah. And they think we're nuts. And did you know, for example, postpartum in countries where the mother and the grandmother, like sometimes both grandmothers all live in the same house, postpartum numbers are like really low because it's just like we're supposed to be together, generations of women.
Right.
Your mother is supposed to be with the new mother and the grandmother and the grandfather. Like the whole thing is supposed to be supporting. And the fact that we isolate in these rectangles, we all go off to our rectangles is deeply unnatural. And we know this, but we don't really do anything about it.
Right.
It's crazy.
Man, yeah, it's super crazy.
When you talk about the Aguris rubbing the jackass guys the wrong way, I have to imagine, one of my questions I just wrote, what's it like being you? And to make that a little bit more specific, you know, you're coming to do this podcast and I get a little nervous. Not really, because I've listened to your podcast and I know you're a thoughtful guy. But more than me being worried that you're going to like think I'm a prank guy and somehow sabotage me, is your day-to-day life like a fan is going to just see you and be like, he's the guy that likes being hit with a board? Like, is that?
I don't think that's so much it. I think that for fans or just people who are aware of me and encounter me in a public setting, that I'm considerably more approachable than a lot of people with profiles.
Like Tom Hanks. You might ignore Tom Hanks because, oh my God, it's Tom Hanks.
Yeah, you might be like, oh, you know, like people just, they're like, I feel that, I'm kind of a people's guy.
For sure.
Like, it's very permissible to approach me and be, you know.
But nobody like licks you?
That's kind of rare. That's a little bit more rare.
It reminds me of punk rock where spitting on the guy singing is actually kind of like, oh, that's their hello. Like I remember I saw Rancid when I was 17 and someone hawked, not just spit, but like a loogie on Tim Armstrong's face. And it just dripped down his face. He didn't even wipe it. And I was like, oh, this is a weird culture. So people don't tase you?
No. I mean, there have been situations like that, but it's certainly not the norm.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the norm. I you know what? Like, it's all I ever wanted was attention. So it's fitting that I, you know, that I should get it and be okay with it. Yeah, it's cool.
Right. But as you're getting older and you're having your attention needs met in other ways, your podcast meets your stand-up, your fiance.
Yeah.
So now you're growing up and you don't... I gotta, like, when I saw Eric Andre and Knoxville tasing each other on that show they were doing, I was like, this is me, but I was like, how old is Johnny? I'm just sort of like, can we give this guy a break? But it's almost like, I worry about the obligation, like, well, I have to do this. I did that. Do you ever feel that way? Do you ever just want to?
I think I do. feel obligated on some level. I feel like, my next move has to be crazier. And check this out. It won't come out for some time, but I had a conversation with Caitlyn Jenner. And Caitlyn Jenner was, she was saying that I made her think of Elton John and how he wore these huge elaborate costumes, and each costume had to be even crazier, and just got to a point where he's just like, nah.
Yeah.
Like, at which point do you see the bar and just think, nah, I'm not gonna,
I did it. I'm just gonna wear a tuxedo.
Yeah, I'm just gonna wear a suit, a normal thing. And that had such a profound impact on me. To the Elton John metaphor. It was just like, man, I got one more elaborate outfit in me.
and then
I'd like to think that that I can, I've been evolving with podcasting, with stand-up, and all of these
sobriety
different things, for sure.
Yeah.
That I think that I can find a way forward that doesn't involve like high impact stunts kind of thing.
Well, I thought about you. I just pick up my I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I picked her up yesterday. Well, actually, it was a friend of hers. I flipped him upside down, and I'm a big guy, so I love doing that sort of stuff. And I just felt something in my low back. It wasn't like a pull or anything, but I was like I needed to get a massage. Like it was like a therapeutic, or I won't be able to walk. And I was like, that's got to be at play. I mean, you probably, for all the great scar stories you have, you probably also have, like in my stand-up special, I told a story about hurting myself because I crouched in the shower and put my face back and forth. And I threw my back out. Just doing that. So, I mean, you have to have like some pretty lame, injury stories as well.
I mean, I think that all of my issues are just standard 49-year-old dude stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think, I have a torn meniscus I'm getting operated on in 2 days. And nothing happened.
Right, yeah, it's just your body.
Yeah, I think I was actually riding a bicycle. Like,
the story is nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Time.
Right, so...
It must be cool, though, because I'd love to talk to you about pain and courage, and we're talking about overcoming stage fright and stuff. I know we were getting into stand-up, but, like, I'll have to get a colonoscopy soon, and then I'm like, if I could somehow bottle what you have, is there any way that you could describe how you do things you don't want to do and how you say yes to fear and pain? Because it actually is useful. Like, we have to do things. Some people, Birbiglia has to get a camera up his urethra, to scan for whatever, a couple times a year. So if we could, like, if there was a pill, the steveo pill, but what is the process? You're about to do a thing and it's going to hurt. What do you do? Do you not think about it?
A very useful tool for me is 1, 2, 3, go. I've never backed out. Like 1, 2, 3, go. Yeah.
You just make a deal with yourself.
Yeah.
We go on go.
Yeah.
I think this whole civilization, the linchpins of the whole thing are people like you going like, Oppenheimer is just like, it could have vaporized the whole known universe. 1, 2, 3, go. And they do it.
Yeah. My bull rider buddy once said profoundly, "You're never ready. It just becomes your turn."
Wow.
Being
okay with not readiness.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that in a general sense that, I don't have any particular threshold for pain. Like, I don't have a tolerance, or because if I did, there wouldn't be that trepidation, there wouldn't be that reaction, that makes everything compelling.
Yeah.
So
you need a real guy doing it. You don't want Who what? There was a superhero that couldn't feel pain. You don't want that.
Yeah, I would be indifferent. It would be very boring.
Yeah,
so
you need a real guy.
Yeah, you need a real guy, and I think that if I have some kind of a superpower, it's quite simply that my desire for attention outweighs my desire for comfort.
Yeah,
it's really.
Okay, so to bring that to Earth, because not a lot of people listening are stunt people,
Right.
but isn't it funny that like bodybuilders are doing a very similar thing? The way that I can relate is I like cold exposure, and every time I do it, my body says don't do it,
Right.
and then I just do it. That's my
There you
1, 2,
go.
3, go.
Yeah, I learned that for my knee, that ice baths very helpful.
Yeah.
And so just a couple days ago, I did like my first one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and God, I hate it.
Of course.
It's the worst.
Yeah, you always
do you
hate
do
it.
that here?
I don't live here anymore, but where we live, we used to have it right there, and it made the move, and I use it every day.
And what temperature is the water that you get
39.
into? 39. Okay.
Yeah. Which is as cold as it goes, but I think it freezes at like 34 or something, so you could go a little bit lower.
Yeah.
But that, I don't know, the phenomenon of like tricking, like there's a part of you this is kind of spiritual, I suppose, that's watching your body, that's watching your mind, and your body are saying
Sure.
no. And I think there's something, whether it's weightlifting, so super athletes, stunt people, even something as simple as getting in a tub of cold water, it's weird that there's a separate part of us that can go override. Like, all the lights are flashing, don't do it.
Right.
Isn't there some sort of clue that there's another part of us that can go? Because, we do that with our moods. Like, you can choose a better mood. Like, you can choose a better outlook. There's an overriding factor that's very useful. And a stunt or cold exposure or weightlifting is just like another expression of that same mechanism.
Perhaps. How long do you stay in the 39 degrees?
Between 3 and 7 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. You know why you don't want to stay in longer?
Why?
Because it'll take too long to heat up. You'll have to like sit in a hot tub for 30 minutes to get back, and that's the risk. So nobody nobody says this more than you, but don't try that. And it takes a lot of training. The first time I did it, I was blue lipped. It was at 60. I was blue lipped and shaking, and then the next time you do build up over time, and then it gets so it's actually easy. And that's why you start staying in for 7 minutes, because I am chasing an endorphin. I'm an addict as well, so it's like I'm chasing like a natural. There's no better feeling than 7 minutes in cold water and then getting in a hot tub. I call it the full body jizz. It's incredible. You just
great.
don't know what to do. You're like, it is like an orgasm.
Yeah. So tell me about being an addict. Like, you're a guy in recovery?
I didn't go through the program, although I admire the program and enjoy. I have a lot of friends in the program, and everything I hear about it, I love. But I just noticed that, like, here's my theory, and I'm going to put it to you.
Okay.
Alcohol, more than drugs. I still occasionally do psychedelics as a. I know that sounds like a weird thing, but it's as a spiritual thing. I do occasionally do psychedelics and weed, but booze. And I'd love to hear what you think about this. I noticed that booze was the only thing that gave me as much attention as I wanted the world to give me. Meaning, it was a guaranteed experience. You drink this liquid, something will happen. It won't ignore you. Does that make sense?
The alcohol won't ignore you.
It will attend to you.
Okay.
It could be good, it could be bad,
right.
But it won't ignore you. And somebody who wants something, there's a want, and alcohol would give it. So I felt that way. Someone who wants attention and someone who wants alcohol, pretty similar to me. I was like, change how I feel.
Right.
And it would go, okay.
Yeah.
And it was reliable. And I recognized, I was like, this is never going to stop. Like, talk about the witnessing thing that was like, I know the body seems to like this, even the parts that it doesn't like, we need to step in and stop.
Yeah. It's interesting. When it comes to attention, I remember being the kid in school who, when I had to get up in front of the class and give a class presentation, I would like the pressure, and you could hear my voice like trembling, like with nervousness and you know, like it's really interesting to me, that whole dynamic, because I wanted so much the attention, the approval, the praise, but I was so afraid of not being liked.
Yeah, you have to risk your worst fear to get your greatest treasure.
Right. Yeah. So it's just this, it's just kind of a rock and a hard spot situation. Like, I want to be in this thing, but I'm terrified of it. And there was a report card that my sister saves all the, you know, she's like the family historian. And we were going through stuff when I was setting about writing my first book. And I found this 6th grade report card where the teacher wrote about me that I don't know if the word desperate was used, but I so crave, Steve so craves the approval and praise of his peers, but everything he does seeking it brings about the opposite results.
Oh, wow.
And it was so piercing to me because, like, you know, there are just tragic situations where you want something so bad and your way of trying to get it like brings about the opposite results.
Yeah. And you have to risk that, and you actually kind of have to endure it. It reminds me of stand-up. It's like, you want to be a stand-up, be terrible at stand-up for 8 years. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, pretty bad.
Right.
Pretty bad. At least for 3 years you'll stink.
For sure. And that, you know, it calls to mind too, like, that I think when people have a stutter, that the stutter presents specifically at the times that they don't want it to. Right. You know, like, and that there's something really, really like tragic in that.
Yeah. I wonder what that is.
I mean, why? When it's most important that you don't do something is when you're going to do it the most.
You ever realize, I mean, I'm sure you do, sometimes I think I was stoned and I realized that I was the greatest threat to myself. And I don't mean that in a suicidal way. I mean, I'm the one, like, I was planning on smoking 5-MeO DMT. And I was like, then I got stoned a couple weeks prior. And I was like, my body was talking to me being like, you're the problem. Like, you're signing us up for paradigm shifting psychedelics. So the stutter, potentially, Lord knows, I don't know. It's like the protector is going like, let's just shut everything down. And then we can just sit still and be ignored, but at least we won't be in danger, as opposed to overcoming it and getting people looking at you, and then it thinks you're risking even more. Right.
And you know what? I got into this with that speaking coach. It was very, very much more like therapy than, you know, and that my protector, like my protector, like I've got some mechanism trying to protect me.
Yes.
But it's not doing a good job.
But I mean, also, didn't it? I mean, all these things you did took a kid who couldn't pass school, couldn't keep a job.
Yeah.
And then it was like, I'm always trying to just recognize that everyone's doing the same thing. What I'm doing is like culturally acceptable. I'm a comedian, I got good at comedy, and I do comedy. And then you watch someone who's not shiny, and what are they doing? And it's like, they're doing the exact same thing. They're finding what is unique about them and highlighting it and dimming the lights on what is deplorable about them. So in a sense, like, what you did really worked.
Yeah.
Like, the protector was right. It's like, let's go cling to a balcony. Right. And now you know, probably live in a nice house.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't argue with that. I really can't. And I wonder what the parallel is there with you know, the alcohol.
Yeah, I could see that I thought I was going to blow you away with my alcohol gives you attention. But that is my thing. Mushrooms is a good example. Like, if you take mushrooms, you have like 4 hours of this thing only for you. even if it's bad, you can't say it's ignoring you. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, this thing is very interested in me right now.
My experience with mushrooms was that it made me introspective to a point of discomfort, and introspective where I just found myself just tearing myself apart with criticism, just arriving at the conclusion that I just suck.
Really?
Yeah, like I'm very mean to I was like, I'm not going to say it. When I did take mushrooms, I found myself very mean to myself and arriving at very negative conclusions about myself.
Wow. That's kind of, what about, have you ever taken MDMA?
It's like, I remember that being just ecstasy.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Ecstasy is MDMA with a little bit of an upper, I think.
Yeah, I took plenty of that and largely had all good experiences.
But did you ever have a therapeutic kind of feeling where it was the opposite? Here, I'm just leading you to what I took MDMA and I was like, I had the very visceral experience of sweeping my own street. Like, there were all these doubts and like, I'm stupid, I'm not, and all that got swept away. And I could see that my street was paved with gold. And I was like, it was very like, look at you.
Wow.
Even the podcast, it was like, you share your insecurities and people get to listen in and feel less alone in your comedy. And I was like overwhelmed that it got swept away. Did you ever receive anything like that?
No, man, that sounds wonderful, but that sounds wonderful, but no.
What about in therapy? Have you gotten to or just in your conscious regular state, have you gotten to a place where you're like,
you know what I've gotten to, and I haven't needed any kind of drugs or anything to get to this, but like I've discovered recently, and I'm sure it's not a new discovery, but I've been reminded recently that I can take the best circumstance. Like, I have a really good life. I've got a really, really good life, very fortunate circumstances, and I can take any situation and make myself miserable.
Really?
Like, despite the best circumstances, I can just be very mean to myself. I can catastrophize.
Yeah.
Like, even like my situation is great, but it's not going to be okay. Like, I'm just barreling towards like some awful situation. Like, I can really, really.
Like, my wife's going to leave me, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I'm gonna lose everything. Like, it's all over.
I'll be discovered.
I'm done. Yeah.
That's funny because your work is so like, you can't discover me. I'll show it to you.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll be discovered as much, but people are just done with me. I think, whenever, if they were interested, they've lost their interest.
But do you still need that like you used to? It's okay to be honest. I mean, if we do, we do.
I don't think that there's really much dishonesty in me.
I just meant I felt like it was potentially an embarrassing question.
No.
I'm saying, but you've clearly grown and you don't need it. Maybe we do.
No, I definitely. I think that this attention-seeking thing is very much in my DNA. There's no divorcing myself from that. But I think that the best I can strive to do is to find separation between the persona, the career, and and just whoever I am.
Yeah.
And it's very, very important to do that, because as long as my identity, my self-worth, my self-esteem is tied to the value of steveo as a commodity in the entertainment world, then I'm like that. I can't.
You're fucked.
I'm fucked.
You're totally fucked.
Like it's just not. That's just a road to misery. And so it was so important to me to to learn how to have a healthy relationship and find a life partner, someone, and really like cultivate an identity and an existence separate from all that.
Yeah.
So that it can be okay for me to get old and be a walking party foul. You know?
Yeah. This episode, friends, is brought to us, sponsored by BetterHelp. My family is not great at gift giving. I'm talking about my mom and my dad growing up. We would always give my dad a tie or something, and he would open it up and sarcastically say, just exactly what I wanted, which was not what we wanted. We wanted a better reaction than that. Whether or not your family gives gifts or does it well during the holidays, you get to define how you give gifts to yourself, and the holidays are a great time to do that. So whether it's by starting therapy, going easier on yourself during the tough moments, or treating yourself to a day of complete rest, remember to give yourself some love this holiday season. I have benefited so much from talk therapy. I always say it is greater than the sum of its parts. Talking to a trained professional has helped me through breakups, job transition, family stuff. It has made my life so much better. It's not just talking, it's actual active healing. I'm a huge believer in it, and BetterHelp has made it so easy to bring it into your life. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. You can even switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. And whatever you're going through, I swear, talking about it with a professional helps. It's changed my life. It can absolutely change yours for the better. So in the season of giving, give yourself what you need with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/weirdo today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/weirdo. We're also brought to us by our friends at Next Evo, my favorite CBD company, and their stress gummies carry me through, not just visiting family or anything distinctly stressful, but just holiday parties, which can be overwhelming for me. And the blend of CBD and ashwagandha helps me ease into stressful situations in my life and are an absolute holiday lifesaver. People have tried CBD in the past that don't know what it's all about, didn't get it. Next Evo has cracked the code, and they get it into your system quickly and reliably so you can dial in the dose, feel the effects, and start benefiting today. Some things don't mix. Brushing your teeth after you drank orange juice, oil and water is another classic. Our bodies, guys, don't absorb CBD oil very well. So when you reach for oil-based CBD products, you could be absorbing as little as 6% of what's on the label. Next Evo Naturals has developed a proprietary water-soluble form of CBD, clinically tested multiple times, which is proven to work faster and absorb 4 times faster, so you can stay calmer or sleep better during this stressful time of year. CBD obviously only works when it gets into your body, if it gets into your body. And only Next Evo has proven that their all-natural gummies and capsules absorb 4 times better than most oil-based products. It's not well known, but CBD isn't actually an oil. Other companies dissolve it in oil because it's cheap and it's an easy way to make products like tinctures and gummies, but CBD only works when it gets into you. So their products absorb faster at Next Evo, better, and are more delicious with absolutely no hempy aftertaste. I can absolutely attest to that. With so many choices, this is the one with the brand data. Next Evo Naturals are proven to absorb 4 times better, and their extra strength daily wellness CBD gummies are 2 times stronger than regular strength, which are incredible. Again, their stress gummies are a life changer. So don't waste your time on oil-based CBD that might not work. Upgrade to better natural solutions from Next Evo. Go to nextevo.com and use code WEIRD for 25% off any order or up to 60% off as a new subscriber. Wow. That's 25% off or 60% off as a new subscriber at nextevo.com and use code WEIRD. All right, everybody, let's get back to Steve-O.
I love that. That also reminds me, ideally, we all have a safe way to let out our shadow. And it seems like, I say this all the time, but it had a profound impact on me. Again, a tribal thing, mask work that put on the mask. And like the devil that put on the devil mask. And then, I got the devil mask. You'd look at your reflection and then you would act devilish. And that was sort of like an agreed upon thing. We have this with Halloween, but this was like a ceremonial, like, he's being the wicked devil, and of course he just took a dump on the fire or whatever it might have been.
Right.
So in a good world, you'd have base Steve, and then you'd be able to try on and put on steveo when you need him.
Yeah. I think, I think that I've actually, on some level, developed the ability to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that that there's a blending. I think I live a double life where when I need to be super crazy and do some super wild stuff, I have the ability to turn that on.
Yeah.
And I'm very calculated about it too.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very deliberate about when I amp up the crazy.
How do you know it's time?
I'm
Like, do you get itchy? Do you start being weird?
Oh.
Is your wife like, you need to jump out a helicopter?
No, nothing like that.
It's not to solve a behavior or a feeling?
No, nothing like that. It's very, very, you know, it's like asking you when's it time to write a joke,
But
right? Like,
it's interesting because I will start dreaming about it. Like, I'll dream.
Okay.
I'll have a recurring dream that I'm looking at my set list and I don't know what it means. I get anxious. I get a little bit irritable. And then I'm like, my wife will say, you need to go do stand-up.
All right.
Like, it's this like medicine that I dole out. And I'm always trying to do it as little as possible.
Okay.
Like, meaning I just want to water it enough to keep it healthy and alive. I don't want to overwater it
Right.
and become a perversion or something.
Okay.
So, but do you have, just to be frank, could you retire?
Could I retire?
No, I don't mean like psychologically. Like, are you sad enough that you could retire? And then we can talk about whether or not you could retire.
I think I think that's the toughest question, because the more money you save, the more financially insecure you feel. I think is a weird dynamic.
What do you mean?
I mean, they've done surveys of people and found that the more money they have, the more that they experience financial insecurity. Like, particularly people with over $10 million of savings.
What?
Like, feel
Really?
they report that they feel financially insecure. And I think that that's evidence of a reality where we don't get satisfaction from saving large amounts of money. That actually, in fact, the money creates a vacuum where the more you have, the more you need. And it becomes this crazy. And so when you ask me, am I set enough to retire? I suppose I would have to really change my lifestyle and reduce my overhead.
Your helicopter budget.
My fixed costs are pretty absurd and scary.
But don't you think you might, as you were saying that, I was like, Elton John came up again. He got audited at some point, and it was like embarrassing, and there was a trial. And I remember one of the things they brought to the jury and the judge was, you spend like something like $26,000 a month on flowers. And I don't know why I know that. Like, what is this public shaming? But I was like, when you have infinite money, you start spending more money because I think there's part of you that knows that's, at least in part, the engine that keeps the thing that actually makes you fulfilled, which is your work. And if you have, if you're always spending, you'll need to make more, but you'll get this byproduct of fulfillment from the work that you do to make that money.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just know that that I find myself a little bit frustrated that the human nature applies to me. You know, like let's say, for example, you know, the more successful I became, the more money I earned. It was very natural for me to like, oh, you're gonna get this percentage. You're gonna like just to be. It was very natural for me to recognize the people who helped me achieve my success and have them participate in it. And so that, like, I've, you know, and by doing that, I've cultivated you know, a loyalty amongst my team that's really, really unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I only recently have I adopted and developed a more sophisticated level of accounting to really be able to see like how it's all shaking out. And really, really understanding, wow, I made that much money and held on to that little of it, you know, and in that the kind of revelation, you know, comes a fear, and then like I've gotta like really curtail my generosity on some level, you know, like I don't want to be the guy who made or earned millions and millions of dollars and like
MC Hammer
doesn't have it all.
Yeah.
So
well, your generosity, slight sidebar into economics, is coming out of your gross. You're giving gifts based on, I gave you $1 million, and then you're giving $100,000, but then you're taxed to $500.
Right.
Then your reps take 30%, and now you're making $300,000, and you gave $100,000
for sure
away,
and
you just gave a third away.
Yeah, it's all just kind of. I'm at the intersection of my, you know, I want to be like generous. I want to not, you know, I want to just not care, be creative, and it's all good. But I also want to be smart. So like, you know, the ego is here to help us survive, because we are biological organisms that need to eat and need, you know. But on a spiritual level, like we're you know, our actual well-being comes from love, and and so the balance of survival and logic,
head and heart.
Head and heart. And so I'm at this and it's just, I feel like I'm in a crunch point where I'm having to acknowledge that human nature applies to me.
And it's a bummer.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
No, I know.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
I totally hear that. It reminds me, it's so relatable what you're saying to everybody, not just showbiz people negotiating millions of dollars, but we're going like, I think the reason the trope exists, this was just in Red Dead Redemption 2. Did you play that by any chance? Doesn't matter. You're out there stapling your nuts. You can't be playing. It's hard to get a thrill from a video game. But, you know, cops in movies are always a day away from retirement, and then they get shot.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the reason we see that as like profoundly true is we're all the cops going like, one more job, one more job, one more job. When really, one of the things that is really strange to me is the level of consciousness or the mindset that fosters success, fosters a lot of money, is exactly the mindset that makes it impossible to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because you're hungry, you're driven, you're itchy, and you had to use all that hunger and drive and itchiness to get to this point, and now you can't sit on the beach. I'm not saying that's what I'm hearing you say. I'm saying that's something we all have to work with, is like, you can relax a little bit. You can relax.
I mean, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. And I last year, I published my second book.
Yeah.
And the final chapter of my second book begins with the question, are you happy? Italicized, you know. Are you happy? And I go on to describe that question is always bothered me. That I've found it invasive, offensive, because my initial instinct has always been, am I happy? Like, I feel like I do some kind of a you know, mental scan of my body, like, am I happy? And everything tells me, no, I'm not. You know, I'm not happy. I'm actually gripped by anxiety. I'm like just a ball of stress that my core belief that my default setting is one of believing that even if everything's okay now, it's not going to be okay.
Right.
You know, like, I'm not going to be okay.
Well, the ego, this is Ram Dass as well. The ego, which is what you're scanning.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. That's what we do when people say, are you happy? We look around the contents of our mind, our psyche, our bodies, And the truth is, this is straight Ram Dass. He goes, the ego can only experience peace for like the briefest of moments.
Yeah.
I hand you the Oscar, you get it for a moment. But the question that's super important, I think, is the scanning mechanism that's looking for the quality called happiness, is that neutral awareness, is it happy? And I think when we investigate, not just take it as my word, but when we investigate the nature of the flashlight, not what the flashlight shines on, oh, is there happiness in here? But is the flashlight made of happiness? Is it made of peace? And that's the answer. But it's as tricky as a knife stabbing itself. How do you turn a flashlight to look at its own quality? And that's what the spiritual practice is going, all of those feelings, happiness, success, anxiety. Are you anxious right now? I'm assuming you're not. So these things. But what I'm saying is, you're not angry right now, and other times you're angry. So these are clouds going through the sky, and we want to identify with the sky, but the ego can't come. That's the shit. The ego is stuck in the human predicament, but I do think there's a part of us that isn't. And identifying with that is the only piece. It's the only one. I just had good news. Felt good for about 30 minutes. I timed it. And I was like, when will this good feeling last? It lasted 30 minutes, and it was a big one. So that's bullshit.
Right. Well, what I arrived at, because we live in a society where it's not it's not okay to say, I'm not happy. No. Somebody said, are you happy? Like you can't say, as a matter of fact, no, I'm not. I'm not happy. Like it's just not.
Then you're a failure.
Yeah, it's not an acceptable
and
answer.
Weirdo.
And I think that's why the question always bothered me so much. It's like I don't fucking know if I'm happy. Like it's none of your business. Like but I really chewed on it more and more. I thought about it. Why should it bother me so much? And what I arrived at is I actually became okay with it, because in my view, like, what is happiness? Let's say hypothetically, if I was happy, like I would imagine that would be to be content, and it follows to me that to be content is dangerously close to lazy.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like what's happiness gonna get me? Like where there's no, and like and my reality of being just like, I'm not okay, like everything, even if I'm okay right now, like, man, I'm gonna be screwed, I'm gonna lose everything, like I'm not gonna be okay, I've got to frantically hurry up and hustle and try to do something to make it so that I'll be okay.
Yeah.
And that is effectively like the fire under my ass
that you're afraid of losing. You want to keep
makes me strive, and it's because I'm so palpably uncomfortable all the time that I work so hard and that I strive so much.
It's hard to know the difference, though. I know what you mean, because when I'm lit up and motivated to write something, it's a great feeling. But it's hard to know how much we're unconsciously, ritualistically reenacting familiar traumas, going like, I'm comfortable being uncomfortable. The first time I got stoned, it made me so relaxed, it freaked me out. I was 28 years old, and I was like, I had to find something to worry about before I could fall asleep. And that was my first little glimpse that I was like, this isn't the healthiest paradigm. It did drive me, and I created a lot of stuff, and I'm glad that I did. But at a certain point, I want to put this to you to see what you think. I'm a huge... lover. I didn't want to say fan, but Rupert Spira wrote this book called You Are the Happiness You Seek, right?
Okay.
So it's really looking at the question of what is happiness. And he's, again, I think, making the very compelling argument that this neutral, spacious field of awareness that we are is, for lack of a better word, happy. It is like you are happiness. And when something good happens to you, he uses the example of he gave his son a gift and it made him happy. But what he thinks is happening then is, and this is very Buddhist, when you get the thing you want, for that brief moment, you're no longer striving, meaning you're no longer resisting, you're no longer averse to your reality. So you settle down, and all of this clinging and attraction and aversions, they go away because you have the thing. But when they go away, your real nature, which is spacious happiness, is revealed. So when you say like, it's all fucked, I'm barreling towards a time when steveo won't be able to achieve and won't be able to be praised, and that's all true. But the good news is that that innate happiness that you are will be with you then, and we should be practicing on how to dip into that rather than looking for the next gift, the next present, the next hit.
Right. And Buddhism is where you get the idea that all suffering comes from craving.
Yeah.
No matter what your situation is, you want it to be better. If you're in pain, you want the pain to lessen.
If you're in pleasure,
subside.
you want it to last.
Yeah, you want it to last longer.
Yeah.
So that's why that phenomena of craving and the craving being the source of all suffering is precisely why I'm able to take an absolutely wonderful circumstance and be miserable in it.
Yeah.
Because I want it to improve.
And then the practice, because I relate to what you're saying, I can do that too, is learning to say yes to what is. And we can do that right now. It's hard because like I want this podcast to go well, and after this I have to get across town and all that stuff. But it's like surrendering. Byron Katie calls it the thought that kicks you out of heaven, right? So you're in a hammock and it's sunset and it's perfect temperature, and you think, be great if I had an iced tea. And that's the thought, that kicks you out of heaven. So the practice that I'm working on that seems like it might be interesting to you is, and I always use traffic as an example, instead of postponing your happiness to when you arrive, how many times have you arrived? You know what I mean? How many times have you gotten to the thing and did the thing and you're done with the thing and none of it worked? Yet we keep thinking if I just arrive on time and if I do the thing and they say the thing, I'll be happy. All of this is going, you are made of peace. And all of this clinging and striving and resisting and averting and is keeping you from your state. And even as we're talking about it, I'm like, it's true. This isn't just a thought experiment. When I'm in an uncomfortable situation, I ask myself, is the part of me that knows my experience, the knowing part of me, does it need anything? And it's always okay. So if I'm trying to like move myself to that instead of Pete will never be okay, Steve. We've done 700 episodes of this podcast.
Have you really? Wow.
What the fuck, dude? Like, so I like having a thing to do, and that's all fine. That's over on this plane. But like the real game is, Eckhart Tolle says, how you feel right now is how you feel about your life. So how you feel right now, that's all it is. And and the other thing that came to mind is when they would ask Ram Dass, are you happy? He'd look around and he'd go, yeah, I'm happy. He's looking around Ram Dass for the feeling of happy. He goes, are you sad? And he's like, yeah, I'm sad. Are you angry? Yeah, I'm who can't find it? Right. It's in there. It's all in there. But the thing that's looking for those feelings is okay.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with all of that. I think that at the same time as, I do genuinely believe that objectively, if I could choose being content or, this constant state of I'm not okay, like there's something really, really appealing about the hustle that comes from feeling like I'm not okay.
Yeah.
Like I choose
I want you
hustle.
to know, I completely understand.
Yeah.
Look at my life.
Yeah.
I love all this stuff, and I love banging out scripts, sending it out. I'm waiting right now. I'm hoping when we're done with this conversation, I have the email that says, I love it, no notes.
Yeah.
This is ready, let's go.
Right.
And it's fun to go tobogganing. It's just when it stops working for you, and it will.
Right.
Like,
and that's the thing, too.
We need to be ready.
Yeah. Like I choose the hustle. I love the hustle. But at the same time, I get to a point where I have to recognize that that forcing and pushing and trying to will something to happen that's not supposed to happen that's not hustling. That's
Well, when does it become a compulsion, and when does it become illness, like a mental illness? I think I probably, growing up in this culture, I think there are a lot of civilizations throughout time that would think both you and I, even sitting here calmly, are deeply mentally ill.
100%. And they're right.
And they're right.
They're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You know, here I am extolling the virtue of deep unhappiness for its results.
Right. Yeah. How many people are like
absolutely mentally ill?
This is the cop who says he's going to retire. Like, someday we'll be happy. Someday we'll hang it up. Someday we'll stop seeking approval from strangers and all that stuff. But like, there is no day. There'll just be your last day.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping that my lady and I we bought a ranch in Tennessee. Like I love fantasizing about us growing our own food.
Yeah.
You know, like they're just kind of living there, like. And I'm actually gonna be in Tennessee for like the whole month of December.
Knoxville, Tennessee?
North of Nashville.
Okay.
Yeah.
Knoxville, Tennessee is not a place, is it?
It is.
Oh, right. You got it. Is that where he's from? I thought I was making a clever joke. That just is a place.
Yeah, Knoxville.
Okay. That's why that's so familiar.
I'm Nashville. But
the trick is,
like, I mean, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know what it's gonna be like to try and not do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I'm not gonna try to not do anything, but I'm gonna strive to do less.
Yeah. Well, the only, all the spiritual things point, it's just now.
Yeah.
So I'm inviting both of us to, in our right here.
Yeah.
Have that ranch feeling as you drive away from the podcast.
That.
You know what I mean? Instead of, the ego will always choose a journey over a destination.
You're right.
So it's like, if only we can get there. Just be there right now. Yeah, I don't mean delude yourself and say you're at the ranch, but I think
whatever
we
I'm
can
seeking,
be spacious inside.
Yeah.
Cling to things a little less tightly inside. And now you're at a ranch. What is a ranch but a space? Why do we love views, unobstructed views and vistas and ranches? It's because it reminds us of our own ability to be spacious inside. You know, when you feel tight and everything's, you're wrestling with everything. When you have a negative feeling, one of the great techniques that my wife Val has helped me with is like, give it space. And see that it's not the whole thing. You can have that red ball of flame and you're in it, but like give it a little, step back a little bit. Try to see its dimension and its size and see that it's a phenomenon that's existing in you. It isn't you. Spacious. Ranch.
Yeah.
Vista. View.
I love that. I love that. And it reminds me too of all the people who went to like India for some spiritual thing, and it's like, you really didn't have to travel all the way to India. Like,
we're in India right now. There is no India. Yeah. The space that's in this room is the same space that's outside of Jupiter. You know what I mean? And we get trapped in this. You ever been really stoned? I have. And you're walking and you get the distinct sensation that you're not moving towards the bakery. The bakery is just coming towards you because your feet are moving. Wow. It's almost like a treadmill. It's a very stoned feeling. But the reason why that's true, in a sense, is that you are always and only and ever here, and you're only and always ever now, and things just kind of travel through this still point that never is really moving. I've had that feeling. You fly somewhere crazy, and wherever you go, there you are. You're just like, fuck, it doesn't matter. I feel that way when I look at pictures of distant space. And I'm like, people are like, isn't it crazy how small we are? I'm like, it's the same I am that knows itself there that is this here. It's only big if you give it a relationship. Do you know what I mean? Nothing exists. Time, space doesn't exist. It's just this one thing that knows itself, and you can put it anywhere. Right. And I think a lot of the people that came back from India were like, it wasn't India. It was you the whole time.
Right. This one thing that you can put anywhere is more like one thing that's divided itself into things that are everywhere.
That's right. In the same way, this is again Rupert Spira. Everybody should check him out. But he says, like, we're like this room. He says, if you describe the contents of this room, most people would say there's a couch, there's a bigger couch, there's a backdrop, there's Katie, there's that. But very few people would say the space in the room. So we're like that. We're these four walls that are housing and giving a temporary identity to this space. But in a million years, none of this will be here. This space will be the same. And we're like that space. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're housing a little block of the space and giving the illusion that you and I are different, in the same way that the space of this room appears to be different from the space at the top of the Sears Tower. But it's the same space. It's the same empty space. That's how we are.
Yeah.
Do you want to do some ketamine?
I would love to, but I can't.
No, I know. It just sounds like a ketamine thought.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, ketamine's awesome.
Yeah. You had a problem, though. I mean...
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff's not for...
It didn't bring out the best in me.
You had wild experiences on ketamine?
Yeah, I was... yeah. I did a lot of drugs, and... I lost my license.
They revoked your license? What about anger? You seem like such a chill guy, and then when I was researching you, and you are, meaning this doesn't take that away, but there are stories of like altercations with people in the audience and stuff. Is there there's a temper? You were arrested once. Did you attack someone in the audience?
I didn't. What happened was there was this was before I got sober too. An audience member like took my bottle of tequila from the stage. I didn't even notice that. I only saw the bouncers go and handle, and so I thought the bouncers were impressive and fierce. And I said, just on a whim, who wants to get on stage and try to run past the bouncers? We'll call it British Bulldog, and it'll be great. The bouncers are going to really mess somebody up. And so I orchestrated this event.
A coup, really?
Yeah, there's this kid, and I was like, okay, you get up here, we're playing British Bulldog. And he tried to run past the bouncers, and they were like these college football players. And it was a little bit anticlimactic. They just grabbed him, and sort of as an afterthought, they lifted this kid up above their head, and they just slammed him on the stage, and he was like knocked out. And
oh no!
Yeah, it ended up. It was on camera, and then it ended up being criminal charges and
against you.
Yeah,
this reminds me of what they're talking about with January 6th. It's like, did you incite?
Yeah,
is that your fault?
I was a principal to second-degree battery.
Oh wow!
Which was a felony, and this happened in 2002. Now, since then, having a temper with like performing stand-up, I've like with disruptive audience members. I mean, it's a thing that we all deal with, and I think it accumulates over time where you end up in kind of a straw that broke the camel's back kind of situation, where like my ability to tolerate disruptive audience members will recede. It'll diminish. And I don't know that I mean I just generally draw a pretty hard line, with that. I take the stance that it's disrespectful to the entire audience.
Yeah. It's not just you, it's the show.
Right. And like I'm so passionate about the art that I'm performing, and the idea that I'm in a theater with 1,000 people who are here and really have this relationship going on that's being vandalized.
Yeah.
It's vandalism.
Yeah.
You know,
It is.
it doesn't take any skill to key a car, just like it doesn't take any skill to, vandalize a performance.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like, I have had bouts with, just not handling that well. And
Yeah.
I don't think that there's really any way to handle it well. If you don't acknowledge it, then it will.
What do you mean? You go hard at them verbally?
Yes, and in some yeah, I mean, like, dude, you're not invited to screw up the show. Like, you're just not. Like, it doesn't work.
But that sounds okay.
Yeah.
But I have to imagine. Correct me if I'm wrong, but do the fans like this? Are they kind of egging Steve-O to be Steve-O?
I don't think that. I don't think that there's ever a good outcome. I think that as soon as you acknowledge it and shut it down, like, it's never benefited the show.
Yeah. Nobody was like, that was my favorite part.
Yeah. Nobody, like, it's not awesome.
Yeah.
And, if you try to be like gentle and delicate about it, it's not effective. So in order to be effective, you got to almost deplete the energy of the show.
Yes.
So
I've done that. And then you come back to your material and you're like, why are we listening to this guy who just yelled at us?
Right.
Yeah, this is uncomfortable.
Right. So I mean, I don't know.
But how do you
like in different situations I've been like really aggressive, like and where that was counterproductive, like I don't know. It's something that I actually got into therapy for it. I literally signed up with my own promo code for BetterHelp to get into therapy to try to work out like why I'm so incensed and so
What did you uncover? Because you can swap therapists at any time. Right? Promo code weird. Yeah.
Right. I mean, what did I uncover? Like, it's almost like 12-step inventory, like I've got unreasonable expectations. I've got lacking compassion,
It's such an embarrassing question, and you have to be like, I don't know, lacking compassion. It's so true.
I mean, it's just like, it's really what it is.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's really what it is.
But I like unrealistic. Eddie F. told me that. He was like the 4 agreements. He was like, don't take it personally.
Right.
And that is
that's a very good one. Yeah. I'm taking it personally and
it's
having,
not personal.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that when I handle heckling the worst, when it affects me the most, I think that really it's got a lot less to do with the heckling, and it's got a lot more to do with I'm
the state it uncovered in you.
Yeah, and I'm, like I said, my touring schedule has been unhealthy at times.
Oh, yeah. So you're going too hard.
I'm burning the candle at both ends. And if I'm, I had a mentor that I did inventory work with who described the thing on people's desks where it's like 4 balls. And you pull back the 1 ball, but it's something 4 balls down that pops off.
Wow, yeah.
So when I'm popping off,
it's the symptom, it's not the cause.
Yeah, like when I'm really, really feeling riled up, I've got to ask myself, what's underneath this?
Yeah.
What's the initial ball?
Yeah. Because the thing is not the thing, as they say in therapy.
The thing is not the thing.
Yeah.
And so I think recognizing that and looking for what the thing actually is.
What is the thing?
I mean,
this horrible prank that you're stuck in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like that's enough to do it.
I wouldn't necessarily describe myself as over like angry. I think that when it comes to that stuff, my only excuse is passion.
My only defense, Your Honor, is passion.
I'm passionate about my art.
It cuts to the fully ancient Greek jury, and they're like, he's innocent.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, you know, I'm through and through. I am a genuine attention whore. I genuinely care so much about that connection with the audience and the delivery of my art to the audience that I do not take kindly to that being interfered with.
Why? Does it feel like you're getting all set up to do a drug? Like, are you like, this is all set up for me to get the attention that I need? Or is it more altruistic that you're like, the show is for them? What is your perspective on why the show is sacred? Is it harshing your buzz, or is it ruining something greater?
I think it's just ruining something greater. I mean, like, here's this great experience, you know, like it follows logically that regardless of how respectful all of the audience members are, I walk away with the same compensation for the engagement. Yeah. You know, nothing has any bearing on my financial remuneration. And so clearly what it's not about whether I'm, you know, they're not messing with my money, you know, like they're just messing with the experience. Right. And
they lose.
For me, like I think that they're like I like to believe, and I genuinely do believe, that there's some integrity in that like the only thing at stake is the experience. Yeah. And I genuinely care about the experience. Yeah. You know, maybe there's part of it too that I've got like some kind of a self-consciousness, some kind of a complex about whether I belong on that stage, and you know, and so like the experience that people have when I am on the stage matters to me so much. Like,
it's tied to your identity.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. There's certainly a lot there. Yeah. There's certainly a lot there, and I really fucking care.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is life or death to part of you. You're like,
yeah, I really care, and so. Yeah.
You ever seen a ghost? You seem like a guy who's seen a ghost.
Yeah, I've had a lot of psychosis.
But have you ever seen one that you're like, I think that was a ghost?
I consider it more hallucinations.
Oh, okay.
You know, I once saw a guy walk through the wall and then like gesture in respect to the memory of my mother, and then continue into the living room and actually pick up my bong and take a hit off of it, and then walk back through the wall. I mean, I guess that was a ghost.
Or your buddy Steve, who's sleeping in the van in the back. He hit your bong?
He lit. That was the crazy part, was that I saw the bong lifted up in the air. And
did anyone else? Were you alone?
No, I was alone. There was a time when a whole group came into my apartment and to stage a formal intervention. And later it turned out that none of them were ever there. I literally hallucinated.
Wait, did they leave? So at the end of the intervention, they were like, goodbye.
I think it became clear that they weren't there like while it was happening.
Wow.
But yeah, they congregated in concern.
And this was a drug flashback, not a drug you had taken?
It was while in psychosis on, you know, roughly 2 or 3 full days into cocaine benders. Wow. Like I would have been doing cocaine, staying awake for 2 to 3 days, and inhaling more nitrous oxide than anything else.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And I loved those experiences.
The fake intervention?
Yeah, I mean, like everything. There were a lot of like fake interventions. There were a lot of like.
Wait, what did you love about it? Wouldn't that be jarring that you then realized they weren't there?
Just that I was privy to this activity from other dimensions was so. You know, I had consumed enough chemicals for the barriers between
the veil.
Yeah, it erodes the barriers.
Yeah.
And it opens up, other energies. The problem with doing it with chemicals is that you invite in all frequencies. So you've got like demons and like I called it demons and angels and demons, and so it's dangerous. It's not like healthy. It's not good. But man, is it wild. I really did love it. Hearing voices and seeing all this wild stuff happen.
Because you weren't bored? Is that what you loved about it? Like something was happening?
I mean, dude, like they were just like tricked. I called them. There were demons and there were angels, and then there were like trickster spirits, like that just would entertain me, like with unbelievable magic. Like the chair I was in was just one time it erupted into flames, and the flames weren't burning me at all, but I was just engulfed in flames in this awesome chair, just fire, and it was like, man, it wasn't even hurting me. I was just like I had this this skateboard was drilled to the wall above the door to my apartment from on the inside, and I had a globe, like the world, a globe. It was the base of it was drilled to the skateboard, so the globe was protruding like this, and like the liquid Terminator, I saw my own face pushed from inside the globe, like it just came out like. And it was me, but it was the globe, and then the globe started going like headbanging, like. And I'm sitting there watching this happen, realizing how like absurd it was, and how it couldn't be real, but like checking with myself, nope, like it's still happening. Like that can't be real, but it's yep. Wow. Not it's persisting. There was just a million things like that would happen, like these curtains just like opening and closing on their own with all these like lights flashing that were just never there, and it's all really incredible stuff.
I'm trying to tie it to what you did with pranks and continue to do with stunts. I mean, like this reality is absurd and mysterious and way stranger, and it seems I'd like your response to like all of us walking around with belts and khakis and going to Kinko's and making copies and going to a birthday party. You seem to have this like, this is what Judd Apatow called me just a minute ago, and he said to ask you about your feeling about that the world is absurd. And you kind of seem like you want us to look at it, stop denying it. So a face coming through a globe, I think, would be administering to that. You're like, I knew it. I knew this place was fucking weird. It's not clean white Ked sneakers. It's a disaster, and it's wild, and it's strange.
In that same apartment, I remember like feeling an undeniable presence of God. Actually, God was just in like in my space. I was like, okay, so and I was just like, okay, so God, like, now that you're here, like tell me, why is the world so fucked up? And there was just there was just silence, which in and of itself was a response, and that the silence was just an indication on some level that, like, I'm not meant to understand it, but everything's actually the way it's supposed to be. And it's almost like in the silence, it's like you're like don't ask me, like, this is the world,
Yeah.
like not the world.
The answer was no answer.
Yeah, the answer was no answer, and it was very powerful. Like to kind of like, hey man, it like is what is. There's simply that there's not right or wrong, there's not good or bad. There's simply what is.
Yeah, that's Shakespeare. Nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. It's just what's happening.
Right. I really had a profound experience and an adjustment of my view of the universe from reading Conversations with God, book 1. Really, really loved that.
Well, who wrote that?
Neil Donald Walsh.
Okay.
It was on the New York Times bestseller list for almost 3 years.
Really?
Yeah, I think it set a record.
Wow. And what is it? What is the...
It's a fairly implausible premise. It's a guy asking God questions and intuitively receiving responses, which he himself writes down. So he writes this whole dialogue.
So it's a channeled book.
It's a dialogue.
Or is it fiction? Was he saying he was doing this? He was having this conversation? Or
he
was...
said that he was channeling. Yeah,
Oh.
He was intuitively receiving responses. He wrote down the entire dialogue, which is a tough pill to swallow. To say, okay, well, you know. However, almost 3 years on the New York Times bestseller list,
Wow.
Lends some kind of credibility to
And
it.
do you remember, did anything striking about God come from your reading of it?
For sure. My mom had suffered an aneurysm on October 10th of 1998, and she survived it, but multiple brain surgeries. She was heinously disabled both physically and mentally, and the 5 years which she survived after this aneurysm was just pure hell. She developed bed sores and was screaming in pain, and it was just the most awful, traumatizing thing that I've ever been through, without anything even remotely
Close.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
And I found myself very, very angry at any God that could allow for such horrible suffering to happen to my mom. And what the book Conversations with God helped me with so much was that it pointed to a flaw in my thinking. My thinking was based on the erroneous belief that God was somehow separate from my mom. God over here allowed this to happen to my mom who's over there.
Wow,
and that's wrong.
Yeah.
But the idea that we are all God, that what we are, what all of us are, in this realm of the relative is an exercise in the universe experiencing itself.
Yes.
And I don't have to understand why God valued this experience, why it was important.
Yeah.
But the idea that God wasn't over there and let it happen over there, but that actually my mom wasn't alone.
Right.
My mom was God. My mom was an expression of God.
Yes.
So that somehow
and God was suffering with and as your mom.
Yeah.
And with and as you.
Yeah, and not even necessarily, I mean, who knows? Maybe it wasn't even suffering. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
Well, that goes back to my question of the awareness.
Right.
Being okay.
And I was deeply honored to have Neil Donald Walsh on my podcast and explain all of this to him directly. And he said that maybe this whole experience that my mom went through was her gift to me. That's, I mean, it's kind of a stretch, but
yeah. But it is true that the story is now being heard by new people, and we're all. I don't know. You got to roll.
I think that's my lady creeping through. Sorry, I mean she was already allowed through with calls, but texts you
I just showed you how to make it on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah.
You can add certain people to your Do Not Disturb, but the problem is we're going to get you out of here. My wife is always replying to text threads where I'm on it, so I think it's important, and it's just like, sounds good or something, and I'm like, God damn it.
There's not too many group texts that I'm on with my fiance.
They're all on mute. You know how to mute a group text? That's a good one.
Ooh.
Mute them group texts.
So that's the counter to my girl.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Although some of them I want. Anyway, this was great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Do you feel good?
I do. I feel pretty comfortable right now.
Great.
Yeah.
Because how you feel?
Dare you ask me that?
Are you happy? Are you happy?
How dare you?
I do want to ask the time you laughed the hardest in your life. Can you think of it?
I laughed the hardest in my life.
And that's it. Then we're out.
First thing coming to mind when my buddy Dave England, one of my Jackass castmates, was on my podcast, and we told the story about, or he told the story about how he smeared poo on the. It was just really, really funny. Like
a poo smear.
It was a poo smear that instigated a little bit of a retaliation. He smeared poo on
Stop it.
The director of Jackass's hotel room door handle. And everybody was drinking, and then so when the director came and went to go into his room, he had poo on his hand. None too pleased about it. Dave's poo, yeah. The director was none too pleased about it until he went about finding out what room Dave England was in. He just knew.
I love an expression like "none too pleased" working its way into a poo smear story.
Right. So the director, and back then we used to share hotel rooms, so it was even easier. The director was let into Dave England's room by
the other guy.
And he squatted over his suitcase trying to poop in it, but he wasn't able to. And then he peed. Oh. He peed. He just stood there peeing in his suitcase.
Both of them.
No. Just the director peeing into Jeff Tremaine, or the director Jeff Tremaine peeing into Dave's suitcase. When Dave got back, Dave was this was a bridge too far because he had bought a stuffed animal for his daughter, his very, very young baby daughter.
Yeah.
And this stuffed animal had been peed on by Jeff Tremaine. And that was not okay. So Dave England, and then this all happened, I want to say, in Paris. And like the next move was to go to Amsterdam. Dave England called the airlines and canceled everybody's flights, called the hotels, canceled their reservations, and booked himself a flight home. He had just left. And the entire...
That was the prank? No one goes.
The entire production had all of the flights were canceled, all the hotels were canceled, and Dave went back home. And I think what was so funny...
Oh my God!
What was so funny about it was that if Dave applied that level of tenacity and ambition to his life, I mean, he's got it, He's
just using it for prank retaliation, poo smears.
It's in there.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That is hilarious.
It's like when I met Motley Crue when I was a little kid. I was, I knew that they were in my city because they had the concert. I called every single hotel in the Yellow Pages asking to be put through to a room under the name of their manager. Called for hours, finally got through. This guy answers the phone in the room. And I said, "Is that Doc McGee?" And he said, "No, this is Doc's brother, Scott. Who's this?" And I'm like, "Is Motley Crue there?" And he said, "How did you get this number?" And I told him I called every hotel in the Yellow Pages. He said, "That is awesome." He says, "How'd you like backstage passes?" He gave me tickets in the fifth row. I went with my dad. I got my picture taken with Tommy Lee and Nikki Sixx.
What?
Yeah, October 25th of 1987.
He admired your stockiness?
Yeah, for sure.
Whoa.
Big time. He admired my stockiness. And, it was the most empowering thing. Like, I was literally 13, and I looked 11.
Wow.
And Tommy Lee and Nikki Sixx. And ever after, my dad said, with every crappy report card, with everything, "Son, if you would just apply yourself, the way that the way that you applied yourself to meeting Motley Crue.
Yeah.
You know, but
Cut to you on a ledge. I'm doing it, Dad.
Yeah,
I'm doing it.
Right, but again, I can't do things that I'm not passionate about. Like if I am passionate about it, there's no stopping me.
Yeah,
no stopping me.
And you have the photos to prove it.
Yeah.
Wow, what a great story. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thank you, Pete.
Would you say keep it crispy? Try and say it in your least Steve-O voice. Try and talk from your vocal cords.
Keep it crispy.
Very good.
All right.
You made it weird. You made it weird. You made it weird. Oh yeah. You made it weird. You made it weird. You made it weird. Oh yeah. You made it weird. You made it weird. You made it weird. Oh yeah.